So before we start with the agenda item number 1, I would just like to welcome our new councillor, Councillor Maren Anthony, to Valley Town Council.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I hope you enjoy your time here.
I'm looking forward to the challenge.
Whatever length of time it will be, none of us know.
Probably.
So I'll get straight on with number 1, beyond the which is a
Are we having a silence for a former colleague?
I think if you would like to wait, Councillor, it does actually come further down the agenda.
Well, it's just not on the agenda.
No, it comes under my report. Thank you. So, number 1, apologies. Can I hand over to Clark, please?
I've got apologies from Councillor Parkin, who's away on holiday. I've got obviously Councillor Mills is here, but I've heard nothing from her, only serious work. And an apology from Councillor Casey, who's got a previous engagement.
Okay, thank you. So, does everybody note their apologies and the reasons given? Yes, thank you. Number 2, Council to receive any declarations of interest in accordance with the requirements of the Localism Act 2011 and to consider any applications for dispensation in relation to disclosable pecuniary interest or personal interest. Have we got anybody that has any declarations they'd like to give this evening? Thank you. Number 3, public participation time. We have no members of public here this evening, so I'll go straight on to number 4, North Yorkshire Police Report. Unfortunately, we don't have any of the police here either, but they have all tabled, or you've all received the email from the police. So if you have any queries or questions, could you please email them or email the clerk, and he can pass the information on for yourselves. So, as we were saying earlier on, my report. So there's quite a few things I'd like to speak about on here. Firstly, I would like to speak about what I've attended this last month, which is the British Legion 100-year anniversary at the Methodist Chapel, which was absolutely lovely, very moving. The memorial service at St Oswald, which those of you that attended, I'm sure will all agree, was a particularly lovely service. It was nice for us all to be together again in the parade and for the community to be able to pay their respects. I then opened a new shop, which was nice to see finally improving and still managing to go, even though we were under these awful conditions. And then I was delighted to go to Ebor Academy to give certificates and for the award evening, which was absolutely wonderful to be able to be with the young people to see how well that they are managing in this awful scenario that we're in. Because they've done all this learning, you know, by home in very bad conditions really, and they've managed to still achieve good results. So that was very pleasant. Then the final food alleviation reception. I'm still awaiting confirmation of time and date. It's possibly January 2022. Valley Town Council paid 20,000 as part of this project, so that's what will be going on. I will be near Council. I know you've got it on your reports, but
No, it's just an update on the reception. I've had an email tonight, due to the announcement by the Prime Minister, it's been reconsidered.
oh, thank you very much for that then. So, but we still paid the 20,000 as part of the project, just that you're all aware Valley Town Council did invest in the project. So the Scarborough Borough Council Asset and Service meeting, which was on the 24th of November here at the council offices, was attended by myself, Councillor Randall, the Valley Town Clerk, Scarborough Borough Councillors, Councillor Cross and Councillor Cockrell, and Lisa Dixon. The assets and service area is really complicated and complex, and after much discussion, it was suggested the first areas of interest that we thought would be a good area to look at was the Everon Centre, Glen Gardens, Crescent Gardens, the Country Caravan Park, and the kiosks on the seafront. There is a huge list to go through, and we are working our way down, but they can't give us information on every single one, so we've just pinpointed some that we would be interested on. But I want you all to be really aware that all assets will be investigated, and it's just a discussion at this stage, and absolutely no decisions or deeper discussions will happen without coming to full council in the first instance. It's a long process and probably not fully obtainable in the short time that we have before the Unitary Authority. If we start the discussions, hopefully they will adopt what we're interested in, and that's a big hopeful thing. More details is actually on the Parks report if you want to read any further about that. But I say it's just a discussion from our point of view, and if you need to know anything more, we'll happily share. I've also been informed that it's hopeful that the amount of money of the capital sale from the Scout Hut could be spent in Filey. We're still waiting for confirmation on that. The town plan and quick fixes. So there's a steering group. The first part, the steering group consists of, again, Lisa Dixon, Councillor Randall, myself, and the Scarborough Borough Councillors, Councillor Cockrell, Councillor Cross and Councillor Casey. And as part of this first spend, as we called it, Scarborough Borough Council has renovated the entrance to Glen Gardens. This was part of the quick fixes that we discussed that we would like to see happening quickly and fine, so people could see that we were moving forward with the plan. So this is what the steering group actioned. And this is in conjunction with the town plan. So the town plan is a 10-year thing, this is our quick fixes. There's also a skip on the left-hand side as you go through these new gates that have just been painted. Unfortunately, this skip cannot be moved. So we've had a discussion to try and make it visually more appealing by putting something around it, and I'm not sure what Lisa and Liam have got together yet, but we're trying to incorporate the children of the schools to put a mosaic, a mural or something around it so that at least we can't move it, but it can be more appealing for people visually when they walk through.
You said the gates.
Yes, as you walk, the big pillars as you walk in on the, just past the White Lodge. Yes, there's a complex.
I saw the photos and
yes.
I thought they were very nice.
Yes, and that was part of our first.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, thank you. So the newsletter is at the printers, ready to be delivered to all residents to inform them of all town council's work achieved this year thus far, and the progress of the town plan also. Now I've not had full confirmation of this as yet, but the likelihood of an election on the 5th of May 2022 for parish and town councils is more likely than not. So this would mean that we all have to stand down, and we can all re-stand again if so wish in May. It's for a 5-year term, if you decide to do so. It is very unfortunate, because this council has been a wonderful council and it's worked really hard over the last 3 years and got some long-term plans, which I'm sure can be adopted by new councillors or remaining councillors get elected back on and can see through. Because it has been a challenging time for this council. We've worked against all kinds of odds, and we've managed to do an awful lot in a very difficult arena, really, with COVID and with other issues that we've had with the council. So I just wanted you to all be aware of that. And regarding what you were saying, Councillor Cockrell, just to conclude my report, I would sadly like to give an announcement to mark the passing of a former Deputy Mayor of Farley Town Council. Julie Viles was co-opted onto the council in 1999, re-elected at both 2003 and 2007, and was Deputy Mayor 2005 to 2006. And this council sends condolences to her family and her friends at this very sad time, and she was a big part of this council and worked hard for Farley and for the council that she represented. So if you would like to have a minute silence for one of our ex-colleagues, I feel that would be appropriate. If you could give me the time, thank you. We'll start. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much everybody for sharing that amount of respect to one of our ex-councillors. So that concludes my report. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask? Oh, one last point to put in, sorry. Just to keep you all aware of this, it's the use of Facebook. May all councillors be aware that personal Facebook messages can only be done as the individual and not as a council unless the agreement has been given with the council. Does that make any form of sense to you all? Do you all understand that? I'll repeat it. The use of Facebook. Please may all councillors be aware that personal Facebook messages can only be done as the individual, not as a councillor. So you can't speak as a councillor unless you are got the permission of the council. So your information is correct, it's been verified and it's been minuted before it goes on any further. So yes, have you got any questions? Thank you, councillor.
Yes, I totally agree with what you've just said. but I've been told by Scarborough Council that anything I put on is in my name and cannot be construed as being from the council. And anything I've put on in the past is absolutely acceptable as being from my own personal Facebook account.
Yes, that's quite correct. But you weren't saying it as a councillor.
No,
You were saying it as an individual.
Yes.
Just to clarify on that, Janine, I totally agree. It's if you on your own personal account say,
Yes.
Councillor Janine Robinson thinks this,
Yes.
then that's what we're trying to ensure.
Unfortunately, it has been put on Facebook. This Janine Robinson is a councillor, but I didn't put that on. And Scarborough were perfectly happy with that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Anthony?
So does this cover then when I've been sharing minutes and agendas and things? Can I not do that anymore?
I can
do that. All right.
It's very much the
Yeah.
Facebook, as far as the council is concerned, is an information process.
Right.
So if there's information now which is given out by the council, it's free information. Happily give that out to whoever if you consider that a good way of doing it.
Yes, Councillor Randall.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. As Councillor Anthony's just said, I've got a councillor page,
Yes.
but it is just purely to give information to the public about what's happening in the council. So it's not sort of a two-way process where people write into me asking questions or anything like that. It's just purely information giving.
It's just to keep you all aware, that's all, because it is difficult with Facebook and everybody knows everybody, people link into people, so it's to protect yourself, it's to protect the council and make sure the information we're giving is true and current and it's not an opinion rather than a fact. Councillor Wilkins.
Just wondered, is there a policy from the council about Facebook usage then?
Yeah, there is. It's the media policy.
Yeah.
It's part of that, and basically, don't put anything out there unless it's agreed by the council. If it's outside that, then it comes to me, and I either approve or not, whatever the case may be.
For example, when I put a piece out about Colin's little bus, I spoke with the clerk, I got verification that I could do so, and it was just an information point. It wasn't a debate, it wasn't a discussion, it was just solely information. Just so that you all know. But it'll help anybody to follow out. Yes, thank you, Councillor.
Just while we're on Facebook, I've noticed that on the Farley Town Council Facebook page, we don't have an awful lot of followers.
No.
Is there anything that we can do? Perhaps could we have a working group to look at that to see how we can increase the followers, increase the profile of the Farley Town Council's Facebook page and attract more people to use it?
Yes, I think that's a very good point, and we can certainly look into it. The only problem is that we aren't wanting it to be a discussion group, because that's not what it is. It's for information only. So if they come back and say something and want to open up a debate about it, that is not what that's for. It is just to provide information and where to get information from relevance to what the question they're asking. So it's a really difficult balance, because we want to be open and transparent and be here for them, but we aren't a Facebook page to have a debate about the flood alleviation or bonds over seals. They have to go through property or go through to the correct councillor that could answer that question, because otherwise councillors might be giving information that's not correct. Yes, would you like to
I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
My point still remains that we do have a Facebook page and it does have very few followers, and perhaps there is a way that we could increase that within the parameters of the guidelines that you've just suggested, and maybe it's something we could think about in the future.
Absolutely, yeah. I was happy to share information and get it out there. Yeah, Carl?
I think for an example, as part of a meeting that we had this morning, it was decided that we put a note out about the Queen's Jubilee celebrations, and we're going to put that out on Facebook. As a pure information, there you go. But with information is to not come back through Facebook, but to come back through the channels that we have set up, which is effectively either the website or coming directly to myself.
Okay, Councillor Wilson and Councillor Robertson.
Just one quick point on the Facebook post. I get what everyone's saying, I totally understand that. I suppose, depending on which other page things are shared to, that's when it opens up a discussion, because that's a public discussion page, I suppose.
Yes.
It's all up for discussion into what the best outlet for that information is.
Yes.
If someone then takes it off our page and shares it into other pages, it'll always end up with a discussion, won't it? Because that's the nature.
But you're quite right, Councillor, as long as it's come from the first point of the correct information that's gone out there,
Yeah.
so if they pick it up off of our website, that's correct. What they then do with it, as you correctly said,
Correct, yeah, it's up to
is
them.
up to
Yeah.
them. No, you're very right.
Yeah.
Councillor Robinson.
Yeah, that's more or less what I was going to say.
Okay, so if anybody's got no other questions, I will move on to number 6, Borough and County Councillors' report. Scarborough Borough Council report. So we've had a report from Councillor Cockrell, we've had a report from Councillor Casey. Councillor Casey is not here this evening, I'm sure you've all seen it. If there's no, he's not here to answer questions. It's on you.
He did send an email and there was a link. His email did one.
Yeah.
That's mine.
So Councillor Casey is not here to answer any questions, so if anybody would like to email him with anything that they feel they would like to broach regarding his, if not, I will move on to Councillor Cockrell, who has also given a written, which I'm sure you've all seen, and if there may be an update, Councillor Cockrell?
Just a couple. I understand that the formal opening of the undercover coaching facility at the golf club will take place next week. I've been asked by a borough officer if the town council has any comments on the proposed information board for the Family Flood Alleviation Scheme that was circulated last month.
Well, I'm happy. I don't know what everybody else believes for it.
Well, it received no comments, so all they really want is there's no comments, is the clerk to formally reply saying, yes, we can do it.
Well, you've brought it to everybody's attention now, Councillor Cockrell, so if they have an issue, then they can thank you for that. Anything else?
No, that's it.
No, has anybody got any questions for Councillor Cockrell regarding his? Councillor Wilkie?
Yeah, just a couple, Mike. It's on the little list of sort of requests of work that you asked for.
Yeah.
Where do you mean the drainage below going down? Where do you, not in the area where it was, where the...
No, you know, there's some steps down from near the boating pond.
Yes.
It goes down
Yeah.
and goes down the bottom of the right of the ring. There's a gully there, and it was coming over.
Right.
They've done some of it. I don't think it's still been good enough. I think it wants some more work.
Right. Now with it.
But that's all I want.
Yeah. I didn't know whether you meant the big area where the
No.
slums were, where it was.
No.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you, Councillor Cockrell. We haven't got a written report from Councillor Cross, but he's here, and I'm sure he will verbalise one to us.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, firstly, let me start off. I think it was brilliant to have the memorial service again. You know, it's such a small town. Wherever you go, I was in Bridlington on the day, and to see our service on the Sunday was absolutely fantastic. The number of people that were there and turned out, and that just goes to show what a great public spirit Piley has. Sadly, the other occasion recently that is the sad loss of Julie Viles, who was a well-respected councillor and somebody who I served on this council with many years and was, you know, I was glad to learn a lot from, so very sad to hear about Councillor Viles. Due to work commitments, there was the meeting with regard to the potential Yorkshire Wolds and an outstanding area of natural beauty, which I believe it is. But unfortunately I didn't couldn't make it, but I did speak and have a long conversation with Alison Chapman, who is actually doing it, and I did put the case forward why Piley should be incorporated, and I did advise her of certain facts, and we had a good conversation, and she was very positive, because although it's not our area, East Yorkshire and that particular area, and we're not actually in it, we ourselves in Humberby are fighting to get in it, because, you know, as I did explain to her, that we were actually at one stage part of East Yorkshire. You know, we have a close affinity. When I was many years ago with all the towns in East Yorkshire, and she was very impressed, you know, by the fact that I made her aware of lots of things, because I think that would be a good thing for the whole of Piley if we can be included. That way we can tie up to North Yorkshire and we can tie in with East Yorkshire at the same time. So I did put that forward. And then moving on, I did attend a meeting regarding assets and I think it's probably, as I said time and time again, it's the most important thing we can do for our residents is get some of these assets back, you know what I mean? And some of them we had when we were East Yorkshire, you know what I mean, and they were passed to us and were taken off in 1974. So I did have a meeting with the Chief Executive, and I did put forward face to face with him and Lisa Dixon the fact that we should get some of these assets and the case, and they did agree with me. And I thought it was a very useful meeting just to have a couple of us in that room and actually speak about it. And I did mention the money from the scalpel, as we call it, but it is in fact was sold as the conference hall, and that case was put forward. So you know what I mean, it's all good news. One thing that I am pretty keen on, so I'm very pleased about that. The other thing that I think where we've got to do looking forward, if we do take any assets on, is they're talking about having electric points for car charging in Station Avenue. I don't think it's good enough. You know what I mean? I think in every car park that we've got throughout, whether it's a public car park, we should be putting electric charging points, because there's no way we can actually, you know, we see people coming over from the West Riding, etc., or wherever they come from, the South Riding as well, you know, they're going to be parking in car parks at the country park on West Avenue, and they do need to get their cars charging, and it's probably one of the most important things, you know, because modern people, there's the big push for electric cars, and you know what I mean, it's one of the things that we ought to be considering, because the problem where we have is that we don't have any at present, and we've got to change that pretty quickly, you know, to go with our tourism industry. So, you know, I mean, those are that's my report, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Cross. Anybody got any questions for Barbara, Councillor Cross? Yes, would you like to have Councillor?
Well, asset transfer, please. I was reading through the paperwork that came along with the minutes, and it looks as if this is going to be a lengthy process, as Madam Mayor has already said. Scarborough Council is finished very soon. So when Scarborough Council is finished, if assets haven't been transferred to Filey, where do we go in the meantime?
Well, yeah, I think my personal point of view is, you know, there's 160 odd assets, if I remember correctly. We're not going to get them all. I mean, I don't think we transferred before the new authority, but it would be nice to get a few of the assets across, and nice to get some of the simple income producing assets, because that is what we need, is income producing assets. And you know what I mean, I don't think I'm saying anything, you know, out of turn, but from the meeting it was discussed that we look at maybe getting 5 assets initially across, you know what I mean, and go from there, sort of thing. And I think if we can, you know what I mean, that has got to be decided, you know, we've got to have a follow-on meeting, and you know, that would be a good result, it would be a good start, you know. And so, you know what I mean, I don't want to really discuss anything, you know, that I haven't seen your minutes of the meeting, but that is the point that I did make to the Chief Executive and Mrs Dixon, you know what I mean, that we should get, you know, 5 and get cracking before, not you have to turn around and say, you can't do that, we're not going to let you do that.
Thank you. I also have got a Councillor Cross that wants to speak, but I'll just bring Councillor Clark in.
Just as a point of clarification, one of the main things that we said at the meeting is that in terms of asset transfer, the first deadline is the setting of the Scarborough Borough Council budget. Once that's set, there is nothing that can be transferred after that date, because within that budget, in particular, if anything is income generating, then they cannot change the budget from that point onwards. So that's the sort of first stake in the ground.
I think as well, yeah, I've got Councillor Cross that wants to come in, but just to go with what Councillor Cross said, is that it is very complicated and very complex, and nothing is straightforward. And a lot of these, I don't know if this council would want to take on, to be honest with you. I mean, the money machines, they're just digging holes after holes. We have to be very careful what we take on as a council, and that we can afford to take it on, we can afford to run it. Some of them, I don't think anybody is even aware of some of the assets and services that Scarborough does. Councillor Cockrell.
Yeah, there are quite a few of the assets that could be good money generators. Certainly the kiosks that being mentioned is one of them. It requires further investigation, but it could be an easy win. But there are also some which are potentially loss-making, but I believe they will be to the benefit of Filey, to be under Filey's control rather than Timbuktu. At the meeting we did get the borough's permission to circulate the top level figures of the costs. The details can't be circulated because there's some confidential information. So I think it would be useful to all members to have that list. That top level list.
I think, sorry for you, Mr. Chair, I'll circulate it if
What we
allowed to work with what we had a look at and
Yeah.
got to the simplified version.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
as Councillor Cross correctly says, 160 items, it isn't very simple to look at, and there are some very, very, very ambiguous figures in there.
Don't only take the figures as a rough indication. Don't take them as 100% because we're delving down into some of the detail.
Councillor Gage.
I was just going to ask the date, you said about what's their budget, is that what date we're looking at?
February.
But the only thing I will say is that I have felt that working with Scarborough, and Lisa in particular, she seems to have a very good understanding of what this council wants. I think the borough councils would agree with that. She seems to have a very firm understanding of what we're looking at. And it's just to be very careful that this council doesn't take things on in a manner that we can manage. We're not a big council, we don't have HR departments, we don't have any facilities to us. So whatever we take on to manage and do, we as a council that are sat here have to do it, unless we can sub out to other people. So, not that we shouldn't do it, I'm just saying there's an awful lot more than just saying take every toilet off, take the car parks on. They all have to be managed, maintained, serviced, employed people to do it all. It's not that straightforward.
Say the heart says everything.
Yes.
The mind says.
Yeah. Councillor Wilkie.
Can I just touch back onto the electric charging points? I wholeheartedly agree with what Councillor Cross is saying. And this area, and other areas in the country, it's not just here. The company I work for is changing all its cars to electric cars as they come up for renewal. And the uptake of electric cars is going to increase. It's just and visitors are going to come over here. And if they can't come over here and charge somewhere, then they'll go somewhere else. And that is that's the top and bottom of it. So I know it's not easy, but I think we have to just keep pushing as a council and just keep getting people's arms up the back.
Do you want to come back, Councillor Cross?
Yeah, really just following up on what Councillor Wilkie was saying. It's not just your company, I have lots of contacts, at big companies, and all their cars are going electric. And it is a big thing. And I worked a week and a half ago. I was in Leeds for a couple of days in the city centre, and I was surprised the number of electric charging points there actually were there. Compared when I lived there many years ago, sort of thing. But quite shocked me, the numbers, and we've got to almost get ahead of the game.
Did you want to come in, Councillor Robinson? Or we answered your question?
No, just to say, I know we're talking about mainly visitors, but when you buy an electric car, the government will pay for you to have the electric charging socket at your home.
As a resident, you can,
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll just move. Last one then, Councillor Cockrell.
Yeah, on electric, I've been pushing the borough for over a year on that, so I'm pleased they've started. Yes, at the moment, the one on the priority list is only Station Avenue, because there's a limited amount of funding available. It's not to say that step by step we'll go further. Just going back onto the assets, if what remains in the Borough Council gets transferred to North Yorkshire Council. At the briefing, was it last week? They did say that it would be unlikely that they'd get round to transferring any to any parish councils that wanted them before 2024, and only if a proper business case had been put forward.
it's not, you're quite right, Councillor Cocker, it's not just straightforward of picking and choosing, there's an awful lot of work that needs to go into it. I'm going to the clerk now, I'm going to move on to
Just one quick thing, that presentation that was on last Wednesday and Friday, I did pass around that. Please can I suggest that you all have a look at it, because it does give you a good understanding of what North Yorkshire's understanding is of what's going to happen.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cross. So we'll go on to County Councillor's report now. Good evening. You've all seen the report.
It's very thin, there's not a lot happening at the moment. So it's really just, have you any questions for me?
Anybody got any questions for the County Councillor? Yes, Councillor Howgate.
Yes, we've got through about the lamppost on the present yard. I understand that lamppost is going to be fixed quite...
I've already had a word with Dave regarding
It's
on their list, and it's sort of next on the list, but when we'll get to it I don't know, because the lighting team are, because of the storms and etc., and also because of COVID, their team has been absolutely decimated with people with COVID, which hasn't helped them.
It's been a few months
All I can say is it's on the list, but when they get to it, it'll be as soon as possible. That's all I can say at the moment.
Because the residents that complain about the sound really getting running airway, it's been going on for quite a few months now.
Is it just the shade though? Or is
No, the light isn't there at all.
Yeah, because there was some confusion whether it was the actual light or the shade.
It's the whole thing, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very dark.
Yeah, it's very dark.
And also the tree there, need cutting back on that.
Yeah.
Where that's...
That's the best.
Again, it's on the borough's list.
But you can revisit that.
Yes,
Thank you.
I'll keep revisiting it and
Thank you.
keeping in progress. It's the best I can do at the moment.
Councillor Wilkie.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a couple of things. You mentioned Storm Arwen on the report.
Yeah.
Do we know if there's any areas around here that are still off? Is it
I don't,
other
there's
areas?
no, as far as I know, there's nobody in this area. It's mostly up Swaledale and places like that,
Right, okay, yeah.
that has really been badly hit as far as electric's concerned. I mean, electric was off fairly briefly here, I think. I haven't heard of anyone that's been days.
Yeah, no, that's good. And one other thing that I just wanted to bring up, and it might not be your land, it might be the borough's land, or it might be private land.
Yeah.
So, over the last few months, the food festivals in Fiery, so the little area where the steps that in the corner where the wishing well is, that goes into the gardens from the footpath, the amount of people that came into that corner with invalid scooters and had to turn back. I know it's not very far around, but the amount of people that were coming and trying to get around there, I was amazed really. So I just wondered if there was any chance that it could be made into a ramp type thing. But I don't know who...
Well, that's where the light wants to be, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are you actually in the gardens there?
It's where the light is, which is
Oh,
being
yes.
discussed. It's
Yeah,
actually-
sorry, it is where the light is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
So, yes, so there's private walk that you cross over 2 steps and then 1 step down.
That might be the point, private walk.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure what land it is. Could we try to just investigate and see what the possibility is, and if it's a no, then it's a no. But I was in that corner for 2 days, and the amount of people that came and had to turn back. Same with pushchairs, carrying pushchairs up and down and things like that.
Thank you. Anybody else got any questions
Thank you.
for our county councillor? If not, I shall
Unregistered.
move on to number 7. Town Park and RFO report. Has anybody got any questions you'd like to ask the clerk regarding his report? Yes, Councillor Anthony.
Well, it's more a statement really. I'm looking at the dog walking project. As a member of Keep Filey Tidy, I did the consultation with the consultant, and I must say how disappointed I was that the whole focus seemed to be against enforcement. They're looking at actually doing a lot of education and new signs and everything, but totally steering away from the enforcement part, which is very disappointing.
Okay, thank you.
And just to say, with regard to that, I think the issue is getting worse rather than better, isn't it? Because I know where I live, it's horrendous.
It's one of these awful situations that nobody wants the job role either, do they? You know, it's, nobody applies for it. I don't know what we can do, really. Yes, Councillor Gage.
Have suggested previously, when I worked at FDC, it was mentioned, having the parking enforcement officers being able to record and hand out fines to people letting the dog down. It was mentioned a few years ago, but nothing really came of it, so might be worth mentioning again. They've got the cameras on them, haven't they, at the time?
They do, I'm not too sure it's their job role, but I totally appreciate what
Well,
you're
no,
saying.
it's not, but maybe you could look at, you know, it's an enforcement issue, isn't it?
I don't think there's anything we can do about that though, is it?
No.
We can suggest if you like.
That's all.
We can do that, we can like suggest.
Borough Council.
Yeah, quite a few years ago, there was talk of training up other officers to be able to take that action.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a sticking situation, isn't it? It just, well, we can't seem to resolve it at all. It's not that we want to try, but we can write the letter to Councillor Gage, and if that helps to move anything. Councillor Wilkie.
Yeah, just one quick point about the community heartbeat poster. Is that going to be circulated, David? Or?
I've circulated it to
No,
everybody.
into the community or...
It's out there.
It was an offer made by one of the gentlemen who periodically comes, who's actually on another parish council, and they'd had a presentation made to them, and he'd pass it on to me. Would this town council like to have a similar presentation?
I think it is available, is it not, Clark? It is circulated. Yeah, thank you. But yeah, it is.
I don't get how much.
No. No. It is out there. Yes, Councillor Randall.
Yes, sorry, going back to the dog fouling issue, I mean, David will confirm this. We asked for some further posters and things because the members of the public were asking for sort of posters to be put round and labels, you know, sort of trying to sort of get enforcement really for this issue, and we were told at that stage that because we were going down the education route, we didn't even have any posters or sticky labels or nothing to give a sister from Scarborough. I think that was months ago.
Councillor Robinson?
Yeah, I don't think education does any good at all. We all know that we shouldn't leave our dogs much anywhere. I know that. I'm sure everybody in this room knows that. What is the point of educating us to tell us that we should pick up after our dogs? We know it. We've known it for years. We've known it since it became law. What we need is enforcement.
It's true.
Because it's the same people all the time. My dog's always done it. I'm not going to start picking up now.
That's a difficult one. It's an emotive one, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I'm sure we can take it off on call anyway, Councillor Gage, and reissue or revisit that, what you said about the cameras, and just see what we come back with. If there's no further questions, I'll move on to number 8, vacancies on committees. Recently, two.
Got the late listening.
Yeah, sorry, I moved to grab it or took out my presentation.
Right, you go. So for those that haven't got a number 8, the number 8 is vacancies on committees. Recently 2 vacancies have arisen, one on events and lighting and one on map and guide, and so the council is to consider applicants for these positions. So a councillor has stood down on these because work commitments means we're just unavailable to make any of these meetings, and we know that we have people that would like to be on, we hope we have people that would like to be on them. So is anybody interested in being on the events and lighting committee, please? Thank you. Councillor Howgate. Councillor Anthony?
I'd like to second Councillor.
No, I think we have a vote.
Oh, we just have a vote.
Yes. Anybody else would like to be on? Well, it's just lovely that we've got more than one person that wants to be on it. Yes.
Madam Mayor, we often have this problem. Now, I mentioned this morning's a meeting, but 1987, when we set up Finance and General Purposes Committee, we stated that it needed to be less than half the membership of the council, so that members of that committee couldn't railroad things through, and that was fine. The terms of reference of many of the committees now gives delegated powers to the various committees, so I don't think there's any need, personally, for that minimum number. I was actually going to bring it up at the annual general meeting.
That should be a good place.
And I just wonder, can we now say that the events and lighting could have more than 6, and then all those who are interested can come and contribute, because at the moment we're stopping people who are keen to be on committees, giving their experience for the benefit of the town council.
I don't disagree with you, I just think we have to follow policy and procedure, and our policy is that it's 6, so we'd have to just change that.
But can I ask through you to the clerk, can we do it tonight, or do we have to wait?
We'd have to wait for it to be proposed as a change to the terms of reference.
And we only need 4 more committees, 4 more dates of these committees before we all stand down in May. We only need, I know it doesn't make any difference, but I take your point, and I think it's something that should be raised at the AGM to be put into place for people going forward, because I do appreciate the frustration that we have people, and a lot of people don't come, but it's, yes, Carl.
Just as I said this morning, I did bring the idea forward 3 years ago that we would increase the size of committees. Basically, at that time, it was to ensure that we were quorate, and my suggestion was that we increase from 6 to 9, which meant that although we'd have 9 people, the actual quorum was still 3. So you had sort of 3 from 9 rather than 3 from 6. So that is a possibility if we decide to change.
Although I agree with what you're saying, I still think whether we have 6, 9 or 12 on them, we still get the core people that turn up all the time to these committees, and people that don't. Because a lot of people are on committees because they haven't thought of understood why they've gone on them, but hopefully now, you know, moving forward. Anyway, Councillor Howgate.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, I agree with what you said about increasing the size of the committees, because we do struggle on committees sometimes getting quorum, and it's difficult.
Right, okay, Councillor Cox.
Can I ask the clerk, thinking back to this meeting, this morning's meeting, certainly events and lighting, there isn't plans to hold one before the January Town Council meeting. Is there any plans to hold a map and guide before the January?
No.
I would have thought so.
No,
The map and guide's
could
finished
I
now,
propose
really.
that we defer this, and at the January meeting we discuss about increasing the size of committees?
I'm happy with that, because as I say, it makes no difference.
I would say
Yeah.
I'll second that if it's a proposal.
I'll propose that.
So we proposed, we've got a vote then for what Councillor Cockrell has suggested, that we defer until January at the AGM and make a new decision from then going forward. Yep.
Thank you.
So that's everybody, I do believe. And unfortunately, those that do get on something, hopefully they can stay on, but if not, it's only like a 2-month period before we all have to stand down again. But
Is that the TORs for all committees, or I think it's just all committees?
I think do
Yeah.
all, might as well.
Well, there's certain ones that struggle all the time, aren't
yes, there are, very much so, yeah. There are more map and guide struggles. I think planning's always well attended, property's well attended, staffing's well attended.
It's like this morning we were going through that.
Yeah. So it is
I think, going back to my proposal 3 years ago, the main area of concern was just getting 9 volunteers, or however many volunteers would be extremely difficult, because there was a feeling that there probably wouldn't be 9 people on the council all of the time that were actually able to attend all of the meetings.
On saying that, Clark, I have to fully agree, because this is the first time that we've had a full council of 13 for a long time. So having a lot of members on a committee, we've been running with nine councillors for a long time. So that would mean all those 9 councillors being on every committee as such. So it's a tricky one. Councillor Robinson.
The only trouble I see with that, with your position, David, is that the more people you have on a committee, the longer the meetings go on, because instead of having 6 points of view, you've then got 9 points of view, and everybody wants their say.
Well, I also suggested a wee while back that I understand what you're saying, that to have, I mean, I know we're going a bit off here, but to have 2 meetings a month, one for all of the business to be discussed on every committee, so everybody's here, and one then 2 weeks later a full council to discuss it all, because whatever's discussed at committee level can be changed it has to come to full council anyway. So a lot of committees put a lot of time and energy into things to bring a concise, understood plan forward. That's the difference, I think. You know, some committees work not more, but there's more to that committee than others. But anyway, we passed through the plans, let's go ahead, so we shall do that, and then we'll see where we go from there. Okay, thank you. So we'll just remain as we are today with the committees that we've got.
Just a point of order, if we do change all the terms of reference, we then can increase the size of every committee. So we then will be looking for potentially volunteers or applicants for all the additional places as well.
I understand that, but I'm a bit concerned about that because I just don't know if we would fulfil that. I don't know whether we did. I think that needs to be a discussion, to be fair with you. I don't think it's as easy just to get a lot of people on one committee. Councillor?
Just to raise the point that we do have 3 new members on this council.
Yep.
None of us are on any of the committees.
Oh, but that's so unfortunate. Yeah.
So there are 3 new people who are obviously willing, as we have demonstrated over past meetings, to put ourselves forward to the committee.
That's not unnoticed and it's not unknown. It's wrong. It's how it's been all the time. I mean, we've all had to wait, which isn't right, to get on it. Once we set up the committees, it's very hard to get in. People get very involved in the committees that they're on. But people do stand down and get re-voted on. There's not really any other way we can do that. And unfortunately, with you and Michelle coming halfway through this last year, and then Councillor Anthony coming now, we've had more new people coming than we've ever had. So committees are very much already done. It's not like we've had it's only because people have stood down or unfortunately are no longer with us that's made availability. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any. Councillor
No, I understand Councillor Hubbard's point, but it's okay saying with 3 new councillors that are on the committee, but they wouldn't want to be on every committee.
No.
It's every committee that would want the 3 councillors.
That wasn't what I was saying at all.
No,
I was indicating that we have more personnel now
Yeah.
who are ready and able.
The thing is that you can always, sorry, I'll come back to you, that any councillor can go to any meeting and have an input in at any meeting, as you know. So anybody can go to any meeting that they're not on to have a discussion. Pardon?
Sorry, I beg pardon, Madam Mayor. No voting rights.
No voting rights, they can only just attend. You're quite right. Councillor Robinson.
What I was thinking was, you have to get new people on. I understand we've got 3 new councillors. We've got a vacancy on events and lighting. Councillor Howgate has said he would like to be on it. And you would like to be on it. Councillor Howgate's been waiting all year to get on that committee. It's not that he's just said, oh, there's a vacancy, I'll go on it. He's been waiting for there to be a vacancy so he could go on it. Which is why, potentially, one of you aren't being voted onto that particular committee.
Councillor Wilkie.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether this sort of discussion is for the January meeting.
Well, it is,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it's,
I don't want to stifle any debate.
no, but it is so much more than the original proposal. There's so much more to this, and whether we will go that way is a different matter, because it's very difficult. So you're quite right, we'll move on.
Bit time to think about it,
Yeah.
won't it?
Oh yeah, we all need to give it a lot of consideration.
So sorry, through you, Madam Chair. So where does that leave Councillor Hubbard and Councillor Howgate now?
Not on the committee, because we've now voted to leave it.
Right.
Because there's no more meetings.
It's going to be a meeting.
Because you're not having another lighting meeting this year.
Nothing lost.
I think we had a vacancy on staffing as well.
It's only been on staffing if you're a
No.
chair.
No.
No, we haven't. No, because Councillor Pont came on it. But do please be aware that it's all done democratically, it's all voted. You know, you can't just slide on it. It has to go to a vote. If we haven't done what we've done tonight, the vote would be between yourself and yourself. So it has to go to the committee, you know, it has to go out to the grounds, the floor, the working council. You know, nobody can go on anything without going through the correct procedures.
I'm sorry, and through, with PERDA, which will actually come in if we do have to stand down, you've only a likelihood of maybe having 1 or 2 meetings.
24th of March, further starts, if it all goes ahead. Right, should we finish that off now? Because, as you quite rightly say, Councillor Wilkie, it's a big debate and it needs more discussion going forward. And I am closing this, but I'm very mindful that whatever decisions we make is whatever the new council will take up in May as well. You know, what we decide, what we think might be good is different for a new set of people. I know, they could just say we don't want that and move on. So whether status quo stays the same and other people change it, I'm not too sure. It isn't a better idea, but we can debate. Number 10, council committee minutes and reports from local organisations. So,
Minutes of the ordinary.
the ordinary council, I've already ticked that, you see, I'm getting far too excited. Minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on Wednesday the 10th of November 2021. Is everybody happy with them? If so, can I have a proposer, thank you, and a seconder. So Councillor Coffey proposed, Councillor Croft seconded, and a vote, thank you. And that's it, we're all through. So, sorry, back to number 10. Minutes and reports from local organisations. This is to note these meetings. Map and Guide, would you like to say anything about Map and Guide?
No, Map and Guide's virtually done. We're just waiting for the proof to come back now from the printers so we can approve it and just make any final thing, but everything else it seems to be up and running. It seems to be come together quite nicely, so we're just waiting for the proof to come back from the printers so we can address it, and then any tweaks we have to do, we can do that. That's what we're waiting for.
Okay,
So,
lovely. Thank you. And planning, which I do believe is Councillor, he's not here, who's the deputy? Oh, would you like to say anything, Councillor Croft?
No, everything's been okay with it. There's only one rejection, it's the same one, I don't think all the time.
Right, okay, thank you. So if everybody's happy and got no questions, would you all like to note those and we can move on? Yep, thank you. Number 11, schedule of payments. Any queries regarding the schedule of payments? If not, may I ask for a proposer? Councillor Howgate proposed, the seconder?
I wanted to, but I didn't mark it.
A seconder? And that's right,
Can I just note something? How often do we change the pads on the DFIB? Is there a...
It's about once every 3 years.
Yeah, I got it right.
Sorry, what was that?
The DP.
Any pads on the defibrillator?
Other than when they're used.
Yeah.
Talking about that, Councillor Wilson, the Park and I were having a conversation about the defibrillators, and we were kind of wondering if we shouldn't consider this council paying for another one to be down at the end of where the paddling pool is. There's nothing down that area. We're pretty much covered through town and down on at the lifeboat house. I think it's about £400. I think it's a discussion that we would like to bring to finance to see if people consider that. It's got to be a good thing, hasn't it? Because there's nothing at Glen Gardens area or anywhere that side of Piley. So we're going to bring that forward. Have you found what you'd like to ask Councillor Robinson, or shall we? That's okay. So would you like me to leave you a minute? Or
I'll have a word with David if I find it.
Okay, no worries. So I've got a proposer, a seconder please. Thank you, Councillor Cronk. And then is everybody happy? Can we vote? Thank you. So we have gone through. So number 12, Christmas lights. I'm happily going to hand over to my deputy now, Councillor Robinson, to explain, as Chair of the Lighting, to explain her diligent work with her team regarding the lights, of which I know she has put a lot of effort in with the rest of this committee to try and get these right.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Christmas lights have been the bane of my life for the past few weeks. However, on the 21st of November we had the lights installed and they were all working and they were fabulous. And then sadly, Storm Arwen hit the town and fused quite a lot of the transformers on the wall where there was water ingress, and that fused the lights. So for quite a long period, Hope Street, Union Street and Bellevue Street were off, and then sadly the roundabout trees went off as well. We did have an emergency repair. It was a bit of a sticking plaster job by MK Lighting, the contractor that we've used for the lights, who came out and actually said that they would try to sort of get the lights back on, but you know, it could only be maybe a short-term fix, because quite a lot of the infrastructure around town is old, and a lot of the boxes are actually worn and water's egressing through the boxes. So they did come out, we paid a fee for that, didn't we? And then sadly, with further storm damage, the lights went off again. So we've now been in touch with a local company, Maltby's, I think it was, who have been out and actually put the lights back on for us. And what we've agreed this morning at our committee meeting is that we'll put a small amount of money to one side just to take us through the Christmas period, just to actually turn the lights back on if they do go off again. I don't know what the proper explanation. It's a trip. It's the lights trip. They'll come out and put the switch back on for us. But in terms of the longer term plan and in terms of the infrastructure, that's going to be a bigger job and it's going to cost quite a lot of money. I did ask David to contact North Yorkshire County Council and to speak to Helen to see if Helen could help us to get some sort of funding for the future.
I haven't received a definite answer as yet. Again, the saying about the storm and the having COVID in the lighting team and this sort of thing, and it's trying to find out if there's any funding anywhere, because the Christmas lights, strictly speaking, aren't county council, but I think the infrastructure will be.
Yes, the infrastructure is.
The infrastructure.
Yeah.
And it would seem to me that it needs to be a full inspection and otherwise you're just throwing good money after the light.
Absolutely. And what happened, we've actually got some money set aside from the Yorkshire Coast bid, which has been ring-fenced for us for next year and the year after. But obviously we need to get the electrical points right so that we don't have the same problem year on year on. Because this issue with regard to the lights, I understand in town, has been going on for quite a long time, especially on Hope Street. So we do need to sort of resolve it, and I think, David, if you want to just add any more?
Yeah, I did have a conversation with Maltby's today, and again, they are happy to do a survey for us, and they are capable of doing the work that we want to do. So if we can, I think we agreed this morning, if we can keep it local, then we've got much more control over it. And their first look at it said, yeah, they are in a pretty bad state. A lot of the connections are dodgy. There are some connections that are actually outside of the boxes, which doesn't make it wonderful either.
If they're going to do an inspection, should county engineers be involved?
They said they were happy to do, but they aren't doing it yet. We haven't asked them to do it. We're just waiting for county to come back and say.
We can't say when that will be yet. This is the thing at the moment.
I have put another email out to Chris Woods and said, can you just give us some indication of time?
Well, they have got a year
for that.
to hopefully get this together. And I think that if you don't mind through you, I know this is your agenda item, but it's sad for Fiery because our lights are beautiful and we work hard to keep them, and there's a lot, and they are made joy to a lot of people that see them. But unless we do the root problem, which is the infrastructure, it will just continue on. And depending on who owns the Imps pub as to how accessible we are to that light switch, which isn't correct, and we should have our own anyway, and it shouldn't be. But they are remunerated, they do pay, it's not for nothing, but that's not the point. It needs to be safe, it needs to be functional, and it needs to be something that this council can manage.
Yes.
And we don't want to keep calling on sort of MK lighting because they charge an extortionate fee to come out to look at it, don't they?
It's not their problem.
Yeah.
Okay, can I just have Councillor Anthony and then Councillor Wilkie?
Through you, Chair.
Thank you.
We've had a few questions again this year about John Street and Bellevue Street, and the same questions come up year after year about why we don't have lights on there, and they never get an answer really. Could we perhaps put something out, letting people know why we don't do that?
Yeah, I mean...
it's not for lack of will, there are problems surrounding it, I understand.
There are, yeah. And we did actually do a survey around town to look at sort of the areas where we wanted to improve lighting around town. There are some issues on John Street because the building heights vary, so there's nothing to anchor points to. And we did actually look at, what was the other area where you said?
Bellevue Street.
We did actually look to extend on Bellevue Street, but we need to get some way leaves if we were to attach to sort of the buildings higher up in the new builds, at the top end.
And that's a job.
But some of the other buildings at the side, some of their masonry and brickwork was quite dodgy, wasn't it? So it's not ideal, but we did say we would look at it to see what we could do in the future. But we need to correct the sort of immediate issues around the electrical supply we've got at the moment that's not working.
Can I bring Councillor Wilkie in and then Councillor Cronk and then Councillor Cockrell?
Yeah, mine was something slightly different, but I think we've sort of talked about this outside the meeting, but the main tree at the bus station, we know the lights, rubbish, and they have been for 5 years maybe, and each year they say they're going to get some better lights, but they never seem to materialise them. That really is our main tree, isn't it? You know, and you know, we've got some lovely lights in the gardens, on the Crescent Gardens, and on the roundabouts, but that one just, for me, just lets the whole thing down, unfortunately.
And that particular tree is supplied through Scarborough Borough Council, and they supply the lights. And Councillor Cockrell has actually taken this up for me at Scarborough level, and has raised it as an issue again this year, because last year we were upset with the quality of the lights, and this year it's just the same. But I'm happy to report, tonight I have done a recce, and all the lights are on. And they do look very pretty.
Yeah, no, they look lovely, and then the new tree on the Crescent has been very well received. Everybody thought that's really lovely. But I don't think you're quite right, Councillor. I don't think people recognise it isn't all firing up, like you rightly said, the tree in Scarborough, the light in Scarborough. It's very difficult. Councillor Falk.
Well, I'd just like to say, we did, with John Street, to go back to John Street, we did say we put little Christmas trees on them. We had an incident last year on Murray Street, which cost the council a lot of money, with a tree wrecking the bracket. And it cost a lot of money, so that's why they haven't really been done.
They pulled the render off that particular property wall, isn't it? So we said this year we didn't put the tree on the wall.
Good job at Miss Fleming Gale, because you might have Councillor Cockrell.
Yeah, just on John Street, when we had MK around earlier this year, they did do a survey, and the problem is they can't put the lines across the street high enough to meet highway standards. I think it's 5.82 metres, something like that. There just isn't the buildings suitable to go right the way across.
Yeah, because we did want to expand on Union Street as well, didn't we? But that was another issue because of the building heights as well.
Councillor Anthony.
Yeah, through you, Chair. My point really was getting that information out there,
Yeah.
because there's good reasons why it's not happening. People just need to know, and then they're not coming back year after year.
Yeah, thank you. We'll try and get something out there.
Councillor Hubbard.
Just while we're on Christmas lights, this is a bit of an aside, but I just want to recognise the effort put in by individuals and businesses who have produced the tree on Cobble Landing and decorated Cobble Landing and lit that as well. It's a credit to the people who work very hard to make that happen every year, as well as beautiful lights we've got at the time.
Yeah, the fish tree is particularly lovely, and I do like to say that this council did give £1,000 towards part of the fish trees endeavour with regards to a cobble to make it look a lot more